Good morning, all. My name is Billie Morgan, and it is a pleasure to be here with you guys today to read your story called Pies from Nowhere. Eyes from Nowhere. This book is written by Dee Romito. This is a good looking pie. When Georgia Gilmore was a young girl, she lived on a farm in Alabama, where she fed the pigs and milked cows. Georgia did her best to listen to what her mom taught her. Think twice before doing anything you might regret, and never ever hate anyone. Georgia grew up and soon had a family of her own. She did plenty of cooking along the way, and when it was time for something sweet, she knew just what to do. She blended butter, sugar in a bowl to get her homemade pound cake started, and then added tea bags to a pot of water for a new batch of sweet tea. Georgia was a cook at the National Lunch Company in downtown Montgomery, Alabama. Because of segregation laws, the restaurant counter was separated into two sections, one side for white customers, one side for black customers. Georgia knew it was wrong, but that was the way things had always been, the two counters. On December the 1st, 1955, Georgia was working at the restaurant when news alert came over the radio. An African American woman named Rosa Parks had been arrested for refusing to give up her seat to a white person. Rosa was tired of giving in to rules that were unjust and wasn't the only one. The next day, a flyer was passed around the black community in Montgomery asking people to boycott public transportation on Monday. It said, please stay off all buses. Georgia watched as buses drove down the street, one after the other. Because she had been treated poorly by the drivers so many times before, Georgia didn't hesitate to ride the buses anymore. Still, she wanted to be part of the movement she saw growing. There's the buses, a picture of the buses. Not long after, she went to Hope Street Baptist Church to hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speak. The church was full. The crowd overflowed onto the street outside. Large speakers had been set up so everyone could hear. Dr. King spoke about doing good things for one another. He talked about freedom, unity, equality. We are determined here in Montgomery to work and fight until justice runs down like water, the righteousness like a mighty stream. Those were things Georgia believed in, and she was willing to fight for them. So Georgia decided to help the best way she knew how. She worked with a group of women, and together they purchased the supplies they needed, bread, lettuce, and chickens, and then off they went to cook. The women bought food to the meetings that followed at the church. They sold sandwiches, they sold dinners in their neighborhoods. As the bus boycotters walked and walked, Georgia cooked and cooked, and boy, did the people of Montgomery love her food. Georgia's group donated the profits from their sales to the Montgomery Improvement Association, which helped fund the boycott. But if anyone had found out these women were involved, they could have lost their jobs. So Georgia ran the operation, and the other women act as secret helpers. See, the way I figured it, Georgia said, people always had to eat. So I made the pies, said Georgia. The women sold baked goods to local stores, groceries, laundromat, and beauty shops, and people paid in cash so they wouldn't be connected to aiding the boycott. She made sweet potato pies, peach pies, red velvet cakes, 7-Up cakes. Only Georgia knew who baked them, and only Georgia knew who bought them. Okay? Every Monday and Thursday, Georgia would go early to the boycott strategy meetings at the church. She walked up to the collection plate and announced how much her group was contributing. There was cheering, clapping, and a lot of foot stomping. But whenever people asked where the money came from, she remembered her promise to keep it a secret. It came from nowhere, she said. Because of this, her brave group of women bakers became known as the Club from Nowhere. The club not only raised enough to purchase gas for the carpool system that had been set up for the boycott, but they were also able to buy station wagons to aid the effort and help get people wherever they needed to go. That was wonderful. But Montgomery didn't want their buses continuing to lose money. So the city did what it could to stop the protesters and their efforts. Dr. King and 89 others were arrested for their role in the boycott. And Georgia was called to speak in court about an incident when a bus driver had mistreated her. After she had already paid, the driver demanded she get off and enter through the back of the bus. She said, when I reached the back door and was about to get on the bus, he shouted out in the back, no, and pulled off. And I didn't even ride the bus after paying my fare. So I decided right then and there I wasn't going to ride the bus anymore. And Georgia testified to that. She testified in court. Georgia knew she was doing the right thing by standing up for her fellow protesters. But news of the trial spread across the county like wildfires. When the National Lunch Company found out she was part of the boycott, she was fired from her job. Georgia was now unemployed and raising 6 children on her own. She needed to find a new way to support her family. Dr. King encouraged her to start her own business. All these years, he said, you've been working so hard for somebody else. Now it's time you work for yourself, he said. He helped her improve the kitchen in her home, and Georgia got new pots and pans and cooking supplies. That was nice. Word soon got around, and people came to eat at Georgia's. When they came to eat at her house for a meal, they would eat whenever, wherever they could find a seat. And if they couldn't find a seat, they'd eat standing up. Georgia loved to talk and joke with her customers and friends. Soon enough, there were long lines to get a meal cooked by her. People ordered meals for delivery too. Georgia was making hundreds of lunches every day. She packed up fried chicken, black eyed peas with okra, fresh corn muffins, and apple pies, and sent her kids out to deliver them. If you were lucky, you might even get her homemade macaroni and cheese. She was providing good food for her community, but she also was bringing people of Montgomery together, black as well as white, because everybody had to eat. Dr. King frequently had meals at Georgia's house because she was a big woman with a big personality. He lovingly called her Tiny. And because civil rights leaders knew they could trust Georgia, her home became a place for importance and often secret meetings. I just serve them and let them talk, she says. On November 13, 1956, Georgia was cooking in her kitchen and she was listening to music on the radio. When the station interrupted the song to deliver the news, the Supreme Court had declared that desegregation on buses was illegal. The boycott had won. Georgia was thrilled. People could ride the bus and sit anywhere they decided. At the next church meeting, Georgia sat at her seat and listened as Dr. King announced the Montgomery bus boycott was a success. We didn't have to walk no more, said Georgia. Even before Martin Luther King Jr. got up there and told us it was over, we knew it was over, and we knew we had won. Still, there would be more battles to fight. So Georgia Gilmore, keep right on cooking. And that's the end of our story. But the whole point in reading this story is to let you know that sometimes one person in your community can make a change, but we all need to help and support one another. Thank you.